The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, hello, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Jill Sorensen. I'm the Product Support Manager at MusicMaster. We are going to be talking about special sets today, but before we get to that, just a couple of quick comments and notes for you. This is a listen-only webinar. However, if you are here listening live and have questions, there is a panel for that in your GoToWebinars panel where you can go ahead and type in any questions. We have people standing by to answer those questions for you, so feel free to do that. If you are watching this at a later date, that's not a problem either. You can certainly contact your music scheduling consultant and follow up with any questions you might have, or you can email us at support@mmwin. So special sets, whether that's 2 for Tuesday, 3 for Thursday, or any other kind of programming that you might use where special sets would come into play, there's lots of different ways to do that, and we are going to go through those today with Paul Zeno. Paul?
Thank you, Jill. Yeah, we're
Muted.
about special sets today, as Jill said. Whether it's going to be your double shots based on artists or you want to do theme blocks, that sort of thing, this is the way to best accomplish it within the MusicMaster program. And it's done in two main sections of the program, in the clocks and in the library. So we're going to start by going into clocks today. Let's come up here and click on our clock icon, and we'll just create a brand new one. So the most common way that we'll see this, especially for starters, is you'll have a position scheduled in your clock, and we're going to want to do a two-fer based on whatever song was scheduled in this position. And the way to go about doing that is to use an element type of special set. Then you get the element properties box for special set, and we have a couple of different things to look at here. First thing to look at is, on the details tab, is what song we're going to base this special set on. We're going to look at the previous song. We have a choice of doing it the previous song, any song, that being music or non-music, the next song being music or non-music, or we can be specific as music only or non-music only, or even within the same scheduling set pass. And we can talk about that in a little bit. For our presentation right now, we're going to look at the previous music item because the recurrent category is a music category, so we're just going to look at that. The field we're going to base this on, if it's an artist double shot, would be your artist keywords. And just to recap here, your artist field in MusicMaster is your display field for the artist name. Your artist keyword field is how you would like that tested. So in other words, if you have a song by the Beatles, your artist field would likely say Beatles, and then your keyword field would have Beatles, McCartney, Lennon, Harrison, and Starr. The next field is your operator, how you want this to look at things. So right now we're saying first to any, which says the first keyword on the song scheduled has to match any keyword on the special set position. There's a handful of different operators within here too. We can do a first to first match, where the first keyword on the song already scheduled has to match the first keyword on the song we're scheduling via the special set. Or we can do any to first, which would be if that happened to be a Beatles song here in this recurrent position. Obviously, Beatles don't have very many recurrents nowadays. But let's assume it was a Beatles song in this position. Any to first would say that any of the keywords on that Beatles song, be it Beatles, McCartney, Lennon, Harrison, or Starr, would have to be the first keyword on the song we're scheduling the special set position. All is just that. All the keywords present have to be there. It can be, if we had the 5 for the Beatles, and then this next song had all 5 of those, plus it had Elton John on it, that would be a match because all of those present on the song we're based on are present on the song we're scheduling. It's when you get to all exact where it has to be a perfect match. So if you have the 5 keywords for the Beatles, they have to all 5 be present on the song we're scheduling the special set, and they have to be listed in the same order. So if it was Beatles, Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, Starr, and then the other one was Beatles, McCartney, Harrison, Lennon, Starr, they're out of order, it wouldn't be an exact match. We're just going to do a first to first match here. And then we get to tell MusicMaster what category or categories we want it to choose from when scheduling this special set position. To do so, we'll click the Select button, and we have the list of all of our music categories and non-music categories within the database. So we'll just go ahead and pick all the music categories here. So they're all selected, and we hit OK. That's the category list in the order that we want it to attempt to find a song to match. So let's say this song here in the recurrent position is by Metallica. If we have a Metallica in the current category that works, it'll get scheduled. If not, it'll look in the medium current, then the recurrents, then the 2000s, and so on. You can rearrange this order simply by clicking the gray box to the left of the song and dragging it into position. So now we're telling it to first look in this 2000s X category, then in our 90s category, before we look in our currents and recurrents for a song to match based on the artist keyword in this song scheduled already. If you decide you don't want to include one of these categories, we don't want to do a 70s two-fer, we can remove it, select it, and just hit the remove button. Or if you don't want any of these after all, you can clear them all out by clicking on clear. In some of the older versions of MusicMaster, as opposed to being able to drag and drop, you would select the category and then use the arrows here to move those into position. But in the most recent updates in 4.0, you can just do the drag and drop. At the bottom of this section, we have details based on how you want things tested. Your first option is to select Use Rules from whatever category of your choice. When you do that, instead of, let's say we're scheduling a 90s song here, we're going to say use the rules of our currents category, or whatever specific category it is that we select. More often than not, you're going to use the rules from the category of each song tested. That way, if the position, the special set position, scheduled a 90s category song, that song would have to pass all the rules that the other 90s category songs have to pass, or all the recurrents or currents and so forth. It would have to match the category, the rules for that category. Bypass all rules based on the target song field. This is crucial, especially when we're doing artist two-fers, because you likely have rules based on your artist keyword field that say you can't play the same artist keyword too close to itself. So if we said we have an hour and 15-minute artist keyword time separation rule in place, and we don't check this box, your two-fer will never schedule because you have the artist keyword already present in this song. Back-to-back is less than an hour and 15 apart, thus it would fail and not get scheduled. That's why you would likely need this checked for bypassing the rules based on the target song field. And that target song field is listed right here, artist keywords. Special set scheduling pass we'll go into a little bit more depth shortly, but there's 3 different passes for your special set scheduling. We're going to leave this as pass 1. So then we have our first two-fer of the hour. So what MusicMaster is going to do is it's going to go through, schedule our recurrent, then we're going to have it schedule the special set based on that recurrent in this situation. And we could do that throughout the entire day or through the entire clock. So let's say the next song we're going to schedule is from our 2000s category, and then we want to do a new special set based on it. Go through again, look at the previous music item. We're going to look at the artist keyword field. Going to do a first-to-first match, and then select our categories. And then we can rearrange them if we choose. And hit OK. So depending on how you have your pass list organized, you should have all of your music scheduled first, followed by all the special set positions based on that music. And that's where your special set 1, 2, and 3 come into play with your pass list. To check that, we'll go to Dataset, Schedule, and Schedule Properties. This is where you adjust your pass list within MusicMaster. Right now, we have special sets 1 scheduling down here towards the bottom. You'll also see we have 2 and 3 listed as well. So the way MusicMaster will work is it's going to schedule all of the fixed category positions for currents and medium currents and so on. And then when it's done scheduling all of that, then it will go through and fill in the special set positions. After it's done with special set 1, then it will fill in any position set at 2 and then 3. We'll touch on this again in just a few more minutes as we proceed into some of the more advanced features on how you can use special sets. So one of the common problems that we run into with special set scheduling is that the song schedule, let's assume we have this recurrent song scheduled, and it's by a brand new artist. They only have released 1 song. Well, now we're going to try to do a special set based on that artist, and there isn't a second song in the library to schedule. Well, how do we prevent that? MusicMaster has a great tool to do so, and it's called the Keyword Kickoff Wizard. And we're going to show you that now. To get into that section, we'll go to Dataset, Library, and Keywords. Use your pull-down menu to select the Artist Keywords field, and then go to the Tools option. And we have Kickoff Category Wizard listed right here. And as it describes for you, the wizard will help you create category of special set kickoff songs based on the values entered in this specific keyword field, being artist keywords. So what we're going to tell MusicMaster to do is go through the categories we select, in this case our music categories, and every time we have two instances of the same artist keyword, we're going to make that keyword allowable for a two-fer, or a special set position. So if we have 2 songs by Motley Crue in this database, we'll get 1 kickoff position based on the fact that we have 2. With this first option here, create multiple kickoff category entries when keyword usage is 2 times the minimum usage count or greater. That allows you to have multiple kickoffs for your more popular artists in the database. So if you only have 2 songs by Motley Crue, you get 1 kickoff position. But if you have 10 songs by Metallica, you'll get 5 kickoff positions. Every time there's 2 songs, you'll get another kickoff for that. A kickoff is basically a dummy song card. The only info on it says this is a kickoff position for this artist, and then it has the artist keyword listed as well. Your other option here is to create 1 single kickoff entry for each keyword that has at least 2. So whether you have 2 songs or 100 songs, you'd only get 1 kickoff position for that artist. That's a good option if you're doing this as a feature, like at 5 o'clock every weekday you do a two-fer. But if you're doing something more along the lines of a 2-for Tuesday or a rock block weekend type of thing, you'll probably want to use the first option. Reason being is that way the consistency of your library is matched by the number of times you hear the same artist doing a two-fer. So those artists that only have 2 songs, you'll hear them less often than those artists that you have 10 songs by, just like you would normally within your library. The bottom section gives us a couple of other options. First one is count all used keywords independently. So when we were talking earlier about a song by the Beatles that would have Beatles, Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, and Starr, we would count each one of those keywords as 1 instance of each. The second option, count only primary or first keywords, would only count Beatles on that song by the Beatles. It wouldn't look at the other 4 keywords, only the first one listed. Our third option is to count the keywords in the groups as they're used on the songs. So if we have the 5 keywords for the Beatles listed, every time those 5 show up together would be 1 instance of that grouping, and every time we had 2 of those, we would get 1 kickoff position. For our presentation today, we're going to look at count only the primary or first keywords. We've selected our categories. We'll hit Next. Now MusicMaster lets us create a category where we want to store all of these kickoff positions. We'll create a new category. We'll just call it category KIK for kickoffs. We can colorize it if we want. So now we've created the category. So all we have to do now is select it. And MusicMaster is going to shuffle and optimize the kickoff category. So if we have 10 kickoff positions for an artist, instead of having them all lumped together, it'll evenly space them out throughout that category. And now we can go ahead and click Finish. We have 113 kickoff entries required for this database. Should we continue? Yes. And now MusicMaster goes through the process of creating those kickoff positions, adding them to the category, and it tells us that it's added 113 to the kickoff category. We can close out of the keyword wizard and come over here and look at our kickoffs category. And there's all that information that we just built. So we'll see we've got a whole bunch of Metallica kickoff positions here, but only 2 of them for 3 doors down. If we right-click on the artist keyword field and go to Library Analysis, you'll see our breakdown. You'll see in this situation for Metallica, we have 15 kickoff positions versus 7 for Van Halen, 6 for AC/DC, and then 4 for Aerosmith, and fewer as we go on down this list. Having 15 Metallicas is likely going to be too much for this database. because we're going to hear Metallica twice for every one time we hear Van Halen, or for every one time we hear AC/DC, but we're going to hear Metallica 4 times for every time we hear Aerosmith or Nickelback, and 5 times for every time we hear a Linkin Park double shot. So I think we've got too much Metallica. So what do we do about that? Well, let's get rid of some of this Metallica stuff. We just come in here and we can select, let's pick off 8 of them. And then we'll just right-click on there and delete those 8 items. So by doing so, now if we come in here and we do the library analysis again, we'll see we have 7 Metallica, 7 Van Halen, 6 AC/DC, and so on. So it's a little bit more balanced this way. Now you'll recall when we did the Kickoff wizard, we told it to optimize and shuffle the category. Well, now these things are not going to be in order. Things are not going to be evenly spaced because we just removed 8 of those Metallica kickoffs. So what do? We need to reorganize this category. We can go to Data Set, Schedule, and Schedule Order. Use the pull down to select that kickoff category and hit our Arrange Category icon. We're going to optimize by field, that field being artist keywords, just for our kickoff category. And now we've evenly separated everything. And you'll see here we've got Metallica at song number 9. And if we scroll down some, we'll see Metallica again at song 24. So there's 15 in between. And then we have another Metallica at 39, so there's 15 in between there as well. So we see that it's evenly spaced out throughout the category. Go ahead and click Save, and that's all done. So let's go back to that clock we were working on and show you how this is actually implemented. What we would do in this situation, instead of scheduling a recurrent position here, we would schedule a kickoff position. And I'm going to remove this song because that's kind of in the middle of our two-fer here. What we're telling MusicMaster to do now is schedule our kickoff position, then do a special set based on whatever was scheduled in the kickoff, and then do another special set based on whatever was scheduled in the one above it. So when we do this with our kickoff position, there's one other thing you want to double check here. Open up the position and go to the Properties box. A lot of times people will have a problem where these kickoff positions, they don't actually contain a song or any automation ID info. They get sent over to the automation system and it kind of chokes. So we're going to hide it from the export of the log. We're also going to not print those out. No need for the jocks to see that we used kickoff positions. So now we've hidden those 2 elements. So now what MusicMaster will do is it will schedule the kickoff position based on whatever's next in line in the kickoff category, then the 2 special set positions based on it. And then we can go ahead and schedule the rest of our log. Now, in order to make sure that this works in the proper order, that's where we have to go back to Schedule Properties. We can get there via the Dataset menu, or we can just right-click over here in the info bar and go to Schedule Properties. So now we want those kickoff positions to schedule first. We're going to zip that all the way up here to the top of the line. We'll set the depth at 1 so that they schedule in order. That's why we made sure to optimize that category so that it's going to schedule Van Halen, Metallica, AC/DC, and then go through the rest. And then after 15 items, we'll get another Metallica again, as we showed you a few moments ago. So those kickoffs get scheduled. Then we want MusicMaster to schedule the double shots based on those kickoffs. Those are set as Special Set 1. Zip that up here to the top of the list. So the way MusicMaster will go about its scheduling process now, it's going to schedule the kickoff positions, followed by the Special Set 1. Those are the special sets based on the kickoff positions, and then it'll schedule everything else afterwards. If you didn't do it this way and you left special sets down here after all of your categories, the problem you're going to run into is the kickoff will get scheduled, then all of your currents, medium currents, recurrents, gold, etc. will get scheduled. And then when it comes time to schedule that double shot, it's going to have a hard time doing so because of artist separation issues, or the song that would have been used has already been used elsewhere, so now it doesn't pass minimum rest, and so on. So you need to make sure that your special set gets scheduled ahead of your music categories that would normally be scheduled in the clock. So we've got that all set up. So far, real good, right? There's another advanced feature we can do with this, and I get calls about this quite often as a music scheduling consultant, and that is I'm going through my database, and I've got all of these pre-recorded liners. Hi, this is Lars Ulrich from Metallica, and you're listening to The Rock. Hey, it's Angus Young from AC/DC, you're listening to The Rock. Or you've got big voiceover guys saying brand new music from this band. To get those things scheduled, a lot of times program directors have to do it by hand, where they just drop those into the schedule as they're going where they want them. But you don't need to. You can use special sets to do that exact process. And that's what we're going to touch on next. Let's assume for our presentation at this point that the songs in our currents and medium currents have pre-recorded liners available for them. So let's open up those two categories. There's the contents of our A and B category. What we're going to do is we're going to create song cards for these pre-recorded liners based on the songs that are present here. So what we'll do now is we're going to create a new category. By right-clicking over here in the info bar, we'll go to New Category. We're going to call this AID for Artist IDs. And this is a non-music category. And I'm going to colorize it, we'll go like this. So here's our Artist IDs category. I have 12 songs here. I'm going to copy the artist field, just like so. All I did was I highlighted it and pressed Control-C on my keyboard, or you can go to Edit and Copy. Now we're going to go to the Artist IDs category. We're going to add 12 new songs. There they are, and now I'm going to edit and paste those artists into position here. The next thing I want to do is I need to create another field for these artist identifiers. To do so, we're going to go to Dataset, Library, and then Fields. The type of field we need is a keyword multiple field. So I'm going to sort by type. Scroll down here, and here's our keyword multiple fields. You're going to learn a lot about the field editor and what the different field types are next week when Jill Sorensen does her presentation that is going to focus a lot on the database field editor. So just a little tease for her on that. User 8 is unused. It's red. That's because it's hidden. So let's unhide that field, and we'll call this Artist ID. And now we're going to add the Artist ID field into our view. Click Show Hide Fields, drag Artist ID into place, and there's our field. We've already copied all the artist names, so let's paste them in here as well. Additionally, let's go into those A and B categories. And we're going to copy that info here as well. So now what we've done is every song in A and B has a counterpart in category Artist IDs. You'll see here we have two Buck Cherries. We have the song by Buck Cherry out of the B category and its ID. Chicken Foot song, Chicken Foot ID. Disturbed song, Disturbed ID, and so forth. We'll also go in here to Artist IDs, and we're going to title this Artist ID. If we select that cell that we just entered that in, hit Shift and page down, we highlight the entire column, and then using Control-D, we can copy that info down to the fields below it. It's a quick little shortcut that is used in MusicMaster. You can use it in Excel as well. We'll also assume that all of these IDs run 7 seconds in length. Highlight the entire column and Control-D to copy that down as well. So now we've got all that information all set up for us. So how do we use that in a clock? Well, let's go and build a new clock. So we've got our clock here, and we've got our song scheduled in this clock, let's assume. And we know already that leading into the current, we want to have one of these Artist IDs scheduled. So we're going to insert right above this current position by right-clicking, going to Insert, a Special Set position. That Special Set position is going to look at the next song, the next music item. We're going to look in the field of Artist ID. We're just going to do a first-to-first match again. And the category we're going to use is the Artist ID category. The rest of this stuff stays the same, except we're going to make this special set scheduling pass number 2. So what MusicMaster will do now, if we come over here and we look again at the schedule properties, it's going to schedule our kickoff positions, then all the special sets based on them, then all the rest of our music categories. After all that other stuff is scheduled, it's going to schedule special sets 2. Special set 2 is going to include the artist IDs. So the only other thing we have to do here is tell artist IDs that we can dig 100% to find the one that's going to work. And if we want, we can move this above it or below it within the line. So special sets 2 will drop right here, and we can put our artist IDs right under it. Where that lines up is irrelevant at this point because they're only going to schedule when the special set 2 positions are scheduled. But we do want to make sure that our depth is correct and adequate so that it can find the ID that we want every time we go to schedule from it. So let's go back and look at our clock here. We're going to come up here and we're going to look at general clock. And I'm going to make a copy of it. So here's a clock. Instead of doing a 2 songs here, we're going to make this a double shot where our second song is going to be based on the one above it. And instead of starting with the top of our ID, we're going to start with a kickoff position. So there's our kickoff. This position is going to be a special set based on that kickoff position. It's going to look at the previous music item. Look at the artist keyword field. We'll do the first to first match and select our categories, not including the kickoff category. We can rearrange the order if we choose. Set pass 1. And now we're going to make a copy of this position or clone it. That way we have our 2 songs in a row. So the kickoff followed by the 2 songs based on that kickoff position. And I'm going to remove this recurrent. Going into our current position, we want to have another special set position. This is going to be based for that artist ID. So we're going to use a special set position here. Tell it to look at the next music item in the artist ID field. Again, we're going to do a 1-to-1 match. And we're going to select just the artist ID category. And this is pass 2. And now we can clone this item and drag its copy down here to go into this medium current because we have these pre-recorded artist IDs for our currents and our medium currents categories. And we'll clone it again and drop it down here ahead of our A current category position. So MusicMaster is going to look at our schedule properties, schedule the kickoffs, then the double shot based on those kickoffs. All the rest of the music, then it's going to do all the artist IDs based on whatever's been scheduled. Going to finish out and be done. So let's save this clock. This is clock A6. And let's go into our assignment grid and create a new one. And we're going to fill this with clock A6. We'll save it and make it active. And let's go ahead and do some scheduling. Launch the automatic scheduler. We'll do it for Tuesday, 2 for Tuesday. And for time's sake, we'll just do 6 hours for starters here. Midnight through 5 a.m. Make sure you have the categories checked. If they're not checked, they won't schedule. So we have to make sure special set 1 and 2 are checked and that artist ID and the kickoff categories are checked. We have that all set. We can hit OK and let MusicMaster start its work. Scheduling the kickoffs, then the special set positions for those kickoffs. Now it schedules the rest of the library. After it's done scheduling the rest of the library, it'll schedule the special sets for those artist IDs. Then the rest of the liners, and it's finished. Click OK and our schedule editor will open. And here we go. Let's also add in one more field, and that'd be the Artist ID field. And I'm just going to save this layout real quick. So here we go. Starting off our midnight hour, we have the kickoff position for Rob Zombie, followed by 2 songs by Rob Zombie. Remember, we're going to hide this element, this kickoff element. It's going to be hidden from export and from printing. So we're just going to see 2 songs by Rob Zombie back to back here. That's our two-fer starting off the hour. Then we have the Artist ID of Heaven and Hell playing into the song by that band. Scroll down a little bit more. We have another Artist ID here and song by Disturbed. See how it matches? Get the same thing here for Metallica. The Artist ID Metallica going into the song by Metallica, which is in Currents. Get to the top of the 1 hour. We have another 2, Black Crowes Shot. Artist ID for the Chickenfoot song. Further down, Artist ID and song for Seether. Little down, Artist ID song for Papa Roach. And it's going to continue that way throughout the 6 hours we've auto-scheduled. Here we are at the top of the 2 a.m. hour, our kickoff position for Newfound Glory, and 2 songs by that artist. Then the Artist ID and song for Green Day. Artist ID and song for Buck Cherry. Have again. Our double shot of Judas Priest kick off our 3 a.m. hour. The Artist ID and song for Metallica, and so forth. Now we can take it a step further. Instead of only introducing songs in our currents category, we could actually have MusicMaster do Artist IDs for any song where they apply. Here's how to do it. For starters, let's open up the entire library of music categories, excluding our kickoff positions. And we're going to hide those that have Artist IDs on them. Artist ID is blank at this point. Here they all are. We'll add in the Artist ID field real quick. None of these songs have Artist IDs on them. Remember what we did before? We copied the Artist field and pasted it into the Artist ID field. Let's do that right now. Have that entire column copied or highlighted, edit, and copy. Go back up to the top of that list. And now we'll paste that in. And it's pasting. We're at 50% right now down here. So now we have that Artist ID on all those songs. So now when we have a Metallica ID, it could play leading into I Disappear. We don't necessarily have one for every artist, but those we do, it'll play. So what's going to happen with the songs that don't have a specific Artist ID for them? That's where the beauty of MusicMaster comes in. We're going to do a mass change to the entire library. So we're going to do a new query here. Going to pull out the Artist ID blank stuff. We've got all of our music categories selected except the kickoff category. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add a generic keyword to all of these songs. By right-clicking on the Artist ID column header, going to Mass Changer. Our operation is going to be add specific keyword, and that keyword is going to be generic. And we'll say yes to all of those, and it's going to go through and change all 378 songs here by adding that generic keyword to all of these songs. Okay, number of songs changed, 378. So now if we go and we open up any one of these, you'll see that there are 2 keywords, an artist-specific one and a generic one. It's on every song in the database at this point. The next thing we have to do is we have to create a generic ID. So we'll come in here to the Artist ID category, and let's add in one item. And we're going to make this Artist ID is going to be generic. Again, we'll call it 7 seconds. Artist ID, and we're going to call this generic. For the sake of time today, let's assume this generic ID is on a rotator in automation. So we're not going to hear the same ID every time it goes to play this. It's going to rotate through a whole pile of generic IDs in this case. If you didn't have it that way and you wanted each one listed separately, you could add a dozen or 2 dozen generic IDs to this category if you chose. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the clock and we're going to make a slight adjustment. Our A6 clock here. For this Artist ID position right here, we're going to open that up. And this time we're going to do an any-to-any match. So any keyword on the item we're based on, in this case the next music item, any keyword on this current song has to match any of the keywords on the Artist ID that we're scheduling. And we still have just Artist ID category, and it's still going to be position 2, or pass 2 rather. And we can make that change to this one as well. And to this one as well. And we can go another step further with this. Let's copy that element. And let's drop that right here. And we're going to clone this one again and drop it here and get rid of this generic liner. Clone that one. Ultimately, what we're going to do is we're going to give MusicMaster the opportunity to schedule an Artist ID ahead of any song where we want it to go. And I'll tell you, with a little bit of setup, you can really get this to sing for you. And remember, it's not going to be an Artist ID specific every time. It could be one of those generics, depending on what song gets scheduled. So now we have Artist IDs going into every single position of the clock. The next thing we can do is we can go into our rule tree and set up a rule so that we don't keep playing that same ID over and over again. We come into the Artist IDs category, and under Keyword Field Rules, use Artist ID and set up keyword time separation. Make it unbreakable, and we could say set it at 225. So now anytime we use an Artist ID, be it, let's say, Metallica ID, you can't play that same ID twice within 2 hours and 25 minutes. Okay, so what are we going to do then? We're going to play the generic. Well, right now the generic's also set at 225, so how do we get around that? We come up here to Related and go to the Keyword Editor. We're at the Artist ID field here. Let's go down to Generic. They're alphabetical, thankfully. And we're going to turn off this auto setting and leave it at 0. So we can play generics as often as we need because we're going to have no time separation on them. Close that, save our rule tree, and let's run another 6 hours of our log. We'll start it at 6 a.m. and run it through 11 a.m. Remember, we have to have these things checked correctly. And we'll hit OK. So let's start off by scheduling our two-fers, and then it's going through the rest of the library now. When it's done with the rest of the library, it's going to go back through and schedule the Artist ID special set pass 2. And then finish off with anything else that's necessary. Let our schedule open up here. Jump down to the 6 a.m. hour, and here we go. We start off with our double shot of Offspring, and now we keep on looking through here and see what we can find. We have a Nickelback ID going into the Nickelback. C going into the Seether song. Notice this isn't a current or a medium current, it's a recurrent. So we're actually introing a song besides those that we'd originally set up. You've got the Heaven and Hell ID, Papa Roach ID, Velvet Revolver, and so on. The only IDs that we have prepped for those specific artists, but it doesn't have to only intro the item by that artist that's in It could be a recurrent, gold, or something like that. So now as you continue working with this, we add in more artist IDs. So if we come in here and we add in a few more, we could say we want one for AC/DC, one for Aerosmith, one for Linkin Park, and another one for Van Halen, let's say. Copy those. We'll pop that into the Artist ID field here real quick. Just have to add it back into the view. So now we've added in a few more of these Artist IDs that are specific, assuming we've already recorded them and they've got carts and everything else in automation. So let's schedule another couple of hours. Starting at noon, we'll run for 5 hours or 6 hours. And you can see how effective this goes very quickly. The only hard part is setting it up to start with and making sure you have all the audio elements available to be used. So when it can't find an audio element that's specific to that artist ID, it'll go ahead and drop down and find the generic that will work. And if we've played the artist ID within the last 2 hours and 25 minutes based on the rule we set up, it'll play the generic instead. That way you don't oversaturate your data, but your playback with all these artist IDs. Let's jump down here to the noon hour. Got you two. Here's an artist ID for AC/DC. That's one of the ones we just added into the database. Nickelback artist ID here. We could have had one for Aerosmith, but we didn't have an ID set up to go into the special set double shot here. So we don't get that there. Here's Buck Cherry. Here's Disturbed. Chickenfoot. Papa Roach. Park double shot. Or not double shot, but artist ID going into the song. Metallica ID going into a song by Metallica from the 90s. See, they're going into the medium current and so on. That's how you can make it work for you. Cool features you can do with special sets in MusicMaster for Windows, as we've reviewed today. You can use it for doing double shots. You can use it for theme weekends if you wanted to. All you'd have to do is, instead of basing your special set on the artist keyword or artist ID field, you base it on your theme field. And you could have themes on songs for like movies, cars, summer, and that sort of thing. All sorts of different options you can do with special sets in MusicMaster for Windows. I appreciate your time today and I hope you learned something.
Thank you very much, Paul Zeno, talking about special sets for us today. Remember, if you have any questions, please contact your music scheduling consultant directly, or if you would like, you can also contact us at support@mmwin.com. Coming up next week, I'll be in the hot seat. I'll be talking about the fields, as Paul mentioned a little bit earlier. Lots of different field types in MusicMaster. I'm going to talk about all the different kinds that are available and why you might pick one over the other. And coming up after that, Drew will be here, and in 2 weeks, Drew will be going through library maintenance and really giving us sort of the second level, a deeper look at all the different things you can do there. So a couple of the topics available to you coming up in the next few weeks. You can certainly go to our website and click on the webinar icon up in the upper right-hand corner to see the things that are coming up and register for those. You can also, of course, view the archive of all the other previous webinars we have done. Any suggestions for ideas for things that we should do? Let us know. Support@mmwin.com or contact your music scheduling consultant. Thank you so much for watching. Have a terrific day.